Things that make electricians just want to quit. When it's good, it's great. The job's going well and everything's going to plan. It's like you're God at your job. Nothing can go wrong. But then it does. And it goes wrong as it can ever go. And your life, oh yeah, it's ruined. It's so bad. And that's it. I'm going to quit being an electrician and go work in a chicken farm where I get paid a wage just for turning up. A simple life. That's what I'm going to do. I've had enough of all this crap. Do you know what type of things trigger these thoughts? Well, keep listening. Toolbox Talks for Electricians, where we help electricians reduce stress, gain back time, and earn more money. Hey everyone, Ben Poulter back here once again. I hope you're doing well. And as I know this goes out on a Monday, it's the beginning of the week. And you should be fired up to have a great start. Whatever happened last week is in the past, and it's the future that we look forward to. But what happened last week? What was it that got you looking on the internet over the weekend for how much money do lorry drivers make? Well, it's over the past 5 years. Materials have gone downhill. There are lights and lamps in people's houses that are maybe put in the 60s, and they don't even trip the RCD. They're good lights, like the ones that we get now. There's just a slight thing wrong with them, and they trip the RCD, and they're faulty. I've rewired a few properties with the old Bakelite switches, and then Bakelite ceiling roses, and they've been there for around 20 years, and they're still working spot on. But these days, everything's LED. The downlights, the plinth lighting, the under cupboard lighting, outdoor lighting. Yeah, and I agree, it is a good thing. They save so much energy and they do look a lot better. But do they stand the test of time? No. When an electrician, he prices a job, it's priced to wire, install, fit and test. There's no point in factoring in the faulty materials that you get, because we do try and get the best ones we can so we don't have to go back. So we don't have to go back and replace the fitting. If you know, on the market as well, the MK have got a fantastic reputation. They are a good brand to use. But I used these boards a little while ago. Well, I say a little while ago, it's probably a few years now. And the MK brand itself was obviously known as a great product. So I must have fitted around 20 of these boards in the space of around 9 months. And then I got a letter delivered. There was a batch of faulty main income 100 amp switches that were on a list of product numbers that were faulty. And you had to go round and check each board to make sure that them boards weren't fitted with the faulty product, the faulty isolator, and they needed replacing. Obviously MK would give you a certain amount to go and change these boards or change these isolators over, but obviously they were my jobs and I was the only one that knew where they were, so I couldn't sub it out to somebody else. And who the hell writes down product numbers of anything that they put in? I had to do that obviously with the JCC downlights when they give the 7-year warranty, but I didn't do it with each MCB or each isolator or each fuse board I put in. So I had to revisit every single MK fuse board that I installed in that amount of time. I had to figure out how many fuse boards I installed and go over and check the product numbers, which was a massive nightmare. And that was one of them things that made me think, screw this, there's got to be something better to do for a living. Another reason is how many Cowboy electricians out there that are still sort of working on the 16th edition from years ago, back in the 80s I think it was, and they still haven't done the 18th edition upgrade. I know a fair few that work for a company because they can't be asked to do the upgrade. They don't want to do the upgrade. And the whole reason that they don't want to go out on their own and do their own business, because they don't want to do this upgrade. They don't want to pay, what is it? It's going to cost you, what, 500 quid maybe to do the training and get the upgraded to 18th edition. Then you can earn a lot more money running your own business. Now, I qualified back in 2004. I think it was 17th edition at the time. But if I remember right, it was a red BS 7671 book. But through my research, I found out that the first edition was out in 1982. And now we're currently on the 18th. And having to do these upgrades all the time and keep up to date with all the current regulations, yeah, that's also a bit of a nightmare as well. And I bet I'll be the first one to say that I hardly ever pick up that BS 7671 apart from when I'm doing an exam. The book costs you around £80 and you've got to have it for every sort of exam you do, every upgrade you do. But if I ever need to know a question, or an answer to a question even, I'll just Google it. But for the beloved Part P, you need to have a copy of this latest edition BS 7671, which we are currently on 2023. We're on the brown copy at the moment, which is the 18th edition. And I don't know what you're meant to do with all these old books, like the yellow one, the red one, the blue one, and obviously now the brown. They've all got a little bit of a different upgrade in each one, different amendments, but they're basically the same. And it's not just the IE regs that you got to get as well, it's the on-site guide. And to be fair, I do dip into the on-site guide every now and again to confirm things, to confirm readings, to check tables. That is a handy little book to have. But it's the questions that you get in these exams or these upgrades. Like one of the questions that I come up against is BS 7671 states that installation design must take into account a comparison of renewable energy sources, anticipated electromagnetic emissions, current copper prices, or the effect of climate change. Obviously, that's a multiple choice question. I mean, how the hell has that got anything to do with electrical installations, any wiring installations in the UK? Copper prices maybe, because obviously you want to know when the copper prices are rubbish. Before you scrap it in, you might as well just pile it up. But I don't know. I failed my 18th edition twice. For this exact reason, because they bamboozled me with questions. But however, third time lucky. And it wouldn't be a real rant about wanting to quit being an electrician if I didn't mention customers. 99.9% of customers are great. And you explain the job to them and how much it's going to cost them, and then you get paid. It's that simple. That's how easy it should be. But there's always a 0.01% that can really wind you up. And there was a garage I did once. They wanted to upgrade their lighting in the workshop. The old twin like fluorescents that they had hanging up, the fluorescent battens they had hanging up high in the ceiling, they kept going wrong. I don't think you can even get these 10-foot lamps anymore. So they wanted to change them to LED. I went out and got some sample lights, and obviously there's so many different grades of LED lighting. So I've got a few different sample lights of all different budgets to see what they want to do. I put them up in certain areas to test it out, to make sure, to confirm with them that they obviously wanted a certain lighting that would be in their garage. And just to confirm to them as well, I tested the lux levels, so I provided them with a readout to show that the lux levels were much better with the new LED lighting. And not to mention how much energy they'd save, because obviously a lot more energy efficient, these LED lights. But I left the new lights up there for maybe 2 weeks or so, and then just so they know as well, because sometimes LED lights can be a little bit different. They can maybe be cool white or warm white, or look a little bit different. So I wanted to make sure that they were 100% confident in what lights they wanted to install over the whole garage. But after a couple of weeks, they made a choice and said, fantastic, let's go ahead and replace the whole garage lighting with these specific fittings. So I made a plan to go ahead on the weekend, because it wasn't busy at the weekends, so I didn't want to have to clamber up and down on top of cars, because if I dropped anything on a car, I didn't want to have to claim in my insurance. Maybe there was a Porsche or Ferrari or some decent car underneath me. I didn't want to damage that car, so I made a point of going in at the weekend so I could clear a whole area where I was changing the lights. And I got all the lights delivered to site and a cherry picker to get up there to change the lights. So it was all organised, and I got it done that one weekend. Spot on, all done and dusted. But it wasn't till a week later that I had a call from the garage. And conveniently, it was about a week later after I sent the invoice. And the lights, they're not bright enough. Well, it showed lux levels that they're twice as bright as the previous lights that they had. There was nothing wrong with the lighting. They just didn't want to pay the bill. So obviously I decided not to do any more work until the original invoice was paid. I worked with a supplier to get the materials paid for, so I didn't have to sort of pay out, I think it was £1,500 for the light fittings, but I worked with the supplier to get them paid for, to obviously charge them and say, look man, you've got to pay for the lights at least, and then we'll negotiate what's happening, because whatever happens, I had to pay for them lights. But through the argument of what lights we were going to put up there and sort of just going back and forth, I cut my losses. I never issued the certificate for the work, and I never got paid for installing them. 5 years later, I've driven past that garage and they've still got the same lights up that work perfectly. I'll never do any work for them guys again. Those type of customers, they make you want to stop being an electrician. They just rip people off like they did me. But you get over it. Ish. I still remember it. But you don't always recall maybe the kitchen company that I did some work for, and they gave me a whole new set of plates, cups, knife and forks. Just, that seems to sort of get forgotten about, the good jobs, because you always remember the bad. Out of all the customers, there's always one that puts you in a bit of a mood. So many others, they become friends, and you even get invited to their family parties because you're classed as their electrician. They like to sort of show you off sometimes. Hey, this is Ben, he's my electrician. It's happened a few times, but I don't mind going to a party every now and again. It's quite fun. And to be honest, I do rave on about electricians being the hero of the building trade, but without plumbers, builders and carpenters, the house really wouldn't get built, would it? So we all have to work together at times to get that job done. Because there are a lot of other tradesmen that you work together quite often and you become friends and you end up having a great working relationship. But then there are other ones that you don't necessarily have a fantastic relationship with, you just don't get on with. And these guys are the cowboys, and they completely mess the job up. They take the money from the customers, and this puts you in an awkward position where it comes to completing the job. There's an extension that I first fixed for a builder once, and I did a beautiful job. It was a loft conversion, so I was in and out within like a day. I booked a time in for the second fix and returned to site that day bright and early, only to find the builders had left the job unfinished, even when the customer had paid them the full amount. And this winds me up. It winds me up with Cowboy builders. The customer had paid for the job to be completed, so it means that money that they had allocated for the electrics, yeah, it was also gone. The builder, he never thought to tell any other trades that obviously he'd left site or been kicked off site or whatever happened. I turned up looking like a right idiot. And it does put you in a quite awkward situation with the customer. But after a cup of tea, and we came to an arrangement for the job to get finished and a price for the electrics to be second fixed and completed. Again, with so many fantastic tradesmen out there, there's always a few that just ruin it for everybody else. And I can confidently say that over the 20 years that I've worked in the electrical trade on building sites and things like that, that it doesn't happen too often. It's just when things like this happen, again, it makes you think, is it really worth it? Should I just do something else? And I think because of all these cowboy builders and things like that, there's a regulation been brought in. I can't remember when it was brought in, but it was brought in a long time ago, called the Part P, which is the electrical regulation for like the electrical standard, when you've got to get it Part P signed off by the council on the electrical side of it. But I think the customers actually know about this Part P too much, because when you get someone that's quoted them £50 for a job that really should be around £150, the customer just sees £100 saving, and it's not until it's too late that it costs them double to maybe put the installation or put the work done that some cowboys done right. And with all these scenarios that make you want to quit, I'm going to end this podcast on one that makes it all worthwhile. And that's when a customer maybe has been targeted by a cowboy builder. There have been a number of properties I've worked in where I go to fix something that doesn't work. And one scenario that sticks out of mind is a cooker that was wired in a 1.5 twin and earth cable. The oven that should have been wired in a 6mm cable, because it was an electric oven, if that oven was used, I can guarantee you it would have caught fire and it would have melted. And in that flat was a single mum that had a newborn baby. So in my mind, I potentially saved someone's life there, and that's why it's all worthwhile. They're the sort of jobs that you walk away from with a big smile on your face. And talking of smiles, you could put a smile on my face by leaving a review on this podcast. Whatever platform you're listening on, take 20 seconds to leave a quick review, and I'll be smiling from ear to ear. So until next time, I'll see you again.